It is October 1st, 1999, and you better buckle up. This is going to be a long one. Like, I know some of my episodes recently have been getting long. Like, I started off at like 10-minute episodes, and then I've gone up to like 20-minute episodes. And then, like, recently I've had some 30-minute episodes talking about movies that I didn't even really like. I've got four movies that I love to talk about this week. Well, okay, I think I've got two movies that I love, one movie that I really like, and then one movie that I like. So, like, there's a lot to talk about this week. So, buckle up. Like, I'm going to be talking a lot. And, like, I've got water with me this time. Like, a lot of times, like, by not having water with me, it forces me to, like, speed things up and wrap it up because my throat's getting dry. And I don't, none of the other episodes I've ever drank on the, like, drank water on the episode. So, like, I have water this time because I have a feeling this is going to be long. Like I'm afraid this might be an hour long episode. We'll see. We'll see. I do talk a lot, and like I said, I talk about movies I don't even like a lot. So let's get into it. We've got an amazing weekend. Like October 1st was a great day for film. Like October 1st, 1999. Like we're rolling into the final quarter of 1999. We got the home stretch ahead of us. We got 3 more months of movies coming out. Um, and all four of them this week were awesome. Like this is what a weekend in 1999 was all about. Like this is a weekend that made me fall in love with 1999. Like let's see. Of the four films, let's start with the one. I mean, it's not that I like this the least. I guess I probably do like it the least. It's the one that I've seen the fewest amount of times, and like I remember liking it a lot in 1999. But like I think I liked it a lot more then than any time I've seen it since then. But let's go ahead and start. First up, this week we have Three Kings. Three Kings. It's considered to be a black comedy, which is fine. Like there is some comedic stuff in it. It's not really an action movie. I don't really know. I'm not. It's a drama for sure, with some dark comedy war stuff that goes on in it. Um, Rewatching it, I think nowadays I care less about war than I even did in 1999. So, like, I think that might be why I don't like love it as much as I remember. Because, like, I remember when this movie came out, and maybe it was just as I was a huge George Clooney and Jamie Kennedy fan, and like Marky Mark and Ice Cube are in this movie. Like, maybe I just like loved the cast so much that I thought I loved this movie because again, like it's not bad in any way. I've watched it a couple of times over the last 25 years. I just watched it this week, and it's still a fine movie. Like there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. So I mentioned George Clooney, Ice Cube, Marky Mark, Spike Jones is in the movie. They all play soldiers over in Iraq, Afghanistan. I can't remember which one it is. But they find this map that they think is to a secret Saddam Hussein bunker. And they think that it's going to be full of like gold and riches and stuff. So the rest of the movie plays out as they try to like read the map and follow the map and go to where the map supposedly is taking them. Um, the weird thing is like a lot of time when I think back on George Clooney when I was younger, I think like, George Clooney, like he did a lot of really good, like family, like friendly, like PG 13 movies. But then like when I really like think about it, like while I was watching this movie, I was like, no. Like some of the first movies I remember him in are From Dusk Till Dawn and The Peacemaker and Out of Sight. Like all characters where he plays bad guys. Like he plays not very good guys. Like I don't know. Like I guess thinking back, like I think of him in like One Fine Day or like Batman, and then like eventually like he built up to Ocean's 11, which I guess I could kind of see this as kind of like a springboard to Ocean's 11. Like he plays a good guy in this movie, but he plays a good guy that does morally gray things. Like he doesn't make the best life choices in this movie. Like one of them ends up, causing a lot of crap to happen to Mark Wahlberg because of something that he does. So like again, he's not a bad guy. He's just like a morally gray guy who makes some. I don't know. Maybe when I was 19, that was something that I really liked about this character. But like, so the movie essentially is following them while they're trying to hunt down this bunker, and like it shows a lot of the morally gray choices that all the characters in this movie make. And like I said, there's some comedy along the way. There's some funny stuff that goes on. Jamie Kennedy is brought in to try to be the very much comedic relief for this movie. Him and Nora Dunn from Saturday Night Live, they kind of get paired up to go off on a side quest. And I mean, truth be told, the side quest doesn't even need to be in the movie. I think it might have been a better movie without it. And again, I love both of those actors. I think they're amazing. I just don't think that what they used their characters for really did anything for the movie. So I don't know. But anyway, so like along the way, our main characters end up making some friends with some of the locals, and it starts like it's very much about war. It's very much about the politics of war. It's very much about like they're in war. There's not necessarily good guys and bad guys. I mean, there are, but like even the people that are considered bad guys aren't necessarily bad guys because the people that they meet along this journey, they learn that they're all trying to get away from Saddam Hussein also. They don't support him. Like they're, I don't know, like it's very much about ambiguity in like war and like how everything isn't what you really think that it is and like and again like it's there's no harsh line of good and bad, so like it's also a very like glorifying of the military movie, which is fine and good and all, but like I just don't really know what David O. Russell's true intentions were like as the director. Like I don't know what he really was trying to accomplish narratively as the director of this movie. David O. Russell, like okay, let's address him real quick. Man, now that I think about it, like this is just a weekend of some difficult people to address. I know there's a lot of people out there that love David O. Russell. I am not one of them. I am very lukewarm to David O. Russell. I like some of the stuff that he does, but some of his other stuff I'm not the biggest fan of. But it has been well documented that David O. Russell and George Clooney had a lot of creative differences on this movie, led to a lot of tension and a lot of fights. I know that George Clooney has publicly said David O. Russell is a director that he never wants to work with again. So obviously between them there's still some stuff like because I think that was a recent quote within the last couple of years. um Also I know that there's video that surfaced online circa like 2002 2003-ish somewhere around there about David O. Russell like essentially losing his shit on Lily Tomlin when they were working on I Heart Huckabees together, and like I mean that's a tough video to watch. Like he is very degrading, demonstrative. Like he does not treat her like a professional should treat their actors. I don't know. As somebody who has directed stuff, I could never imagine yelling and screaming at one of my actors that way. So watching that is really tough, and I guess I mean it's an awkward situation because there are other actors involved in this. It was footage that was leaked from a rehearsal that was going on, and I don't know exactly what David O. Russell's issue was, but he took a lot of vile, angry words out on Lily Tomlin, and you see a lot of the other cast get up and walk away because they don't want to be a part of this. And I give Lily Tomlin a lot of props because I in researching this and David Russell and stuff like that, like I've seen some of the quotes that she said about the situation, and she definitely took the high road. She definitely made comments like we were adults, we had a disagreement, and we all moved on. So like good for her. Again, kind of different from the way that George Clooney has talked about never being interested in working with David O. Russell again. So I don't know. She's definitely a better person than me because if somebody talked to me the way that he talked to her, I would be more of the George Clooney boat of not wanting to work with them again. So David O. Russell is David O. Russell. It's like this was his second film, and I really like his first film. His first film's called Flirting with Disaster. It's a Ben Stiller movie. I think that's really well done. I actually watched it for the first time in film class like 25 years ago. So like right around the time this movie was coming out, I was being introduced to David O. Russell as a writer director with Flirting with Disaster. I really like this a lot. Um, he went on to do The Fighter, which I think is a fine movie. Silver Lining Playbooks, I think, is a fine movie. I didn't care for American Hustle. I know a lot of people love American Hustle. He did another movie with Jennifer Lawrence, Joy. He did with Jennifer Lawrence. I never watched it because it did not look interesting to me at all. So like he does interesting stuff. I'm just not really a huge fan of it. Again, I know American Hustle won a bunch of awards and a lot of people love it, but I just did not enjoy the movie at all for me. Um, let's look at some of the other supporting cast. I've already mentioned Nora Dunn and Jamie Kennedy. Mekhi Williamson is in this, and Cliff Curtis. Dude, Cliff Curtis had a busy 1999. It's been a long time since I did the review on Virus. I can't remember if I mentioned Cliff Curtis being in Virus, but like way back in January of '99, he was in that. Before 1999 is over, he is still going to be in Bringing Out the Dead, and then he's going to be in The Insider. Both of those, I want to say one's November, one's December. So his name's going to come up a couple more times on this podcast before it's done. Finally, Zaid I'm gonna butcher his last name. Like I always feel like a dick because usually when I'm talking about him with my friends, I'm like Zaid Tamagotchi. Which, if you don't know what a Tamagotchi is, it was a little Japanese toy back in the 90s. It was essentially a virtual pet that you had to keep alive. Um, and I mean, I'm sure that makes me sound like a dick. Zaid Tahaga Mahoy. Tamahahoy. Again, terrible. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I apologize for that. Zaid, we can call him that. There's an amazing scene between him and Mark Wahlberg. Like, he's a good actor in everything I've ever seen him in, but like, there's an interrogation scene where he's interrogating Mark Wahlberg, but like, it's more than an interrogation because like, not only is it an interrogation, like he's explaining why he is the way he is and what happened to his family in this war. And like it definitely causes you to empathize for him before he does some really evil shit to Mark Wahlberg. Like he just like flips it like he gets you going like this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like this is what happened to my family. Like you feel sad for me. Wait, I'm gonna give you a reason not to feel sad for me because I'm kind of an evil sadistic dude. So like that is a tough interrogation scene to watch, and Zaid is amazing in it. Like that's like a real like I, I don't know like it's a tough sequence, but then like I guess that was kind of like what David O. Russell was trying to do with this movie because truth be told, like the toughest sequence in this movie is so out of place that I don't understand why it's in the movie other than to like I don't know if like gross out is the right word, but like there's a sequence in the film where one of the characters gets shot and completely out of context like it the camera goes inside the character's body. While it's inside the character's body, like you see their lungs starting to collapse. Like it's a very like I mean, I assume anatomically correct look at what the inside of a body looks like and all the organs pumping and all this stuff going on. And then you just see one of the lungs start to collapse. The other one is still okay, but the other one, like one of the lungs just like shrivels up while it's trying to breathe. And like it's just so weird. Like it just comes out of nowhere, and like it's only used for this like 2 or 3 minute sequence. Like, and the movie has nothing else like this in it. So I don't understand like the purpose of it or where it came from or why he did it. But I can't remember the action movies. There was some action movie in the mid 2000s where like every time the main character would like fight with somebody and then like let's say he like grabbed their arm and then broke their arm like when that would happen it would go to like an x-ray shot of the arm and then the snapping and the bone breaking and like instead of showing it to you like really happening like it would show you an x-ray version of it or like you would kick somebody in the knee and it would go to the x-ray and you'd see like the kneecap shatter and stuff and like again, I can't remember what movie it was, but like it was constant throughout the whole movie. Like anytime there was a fight scene and any of this stuff happened, like you got that kind of a react, like you got that, and it made sense. So like, okay, that's the shtick with this movie. And anytime a bone gets broken or something, you're going to see it in X-ray form. For this movie to just out of nowhere jump inside of a character's body, show you that I think it does it two, maybe three times during this shooting sequence. Um, yeah, because it shows you the lung collapsing. I think it cuts to it a second time, showing you like the bullet in there, and then I think it cuts to it a third time once they do something to get the air, the pressure relieved out of his body. So like three times it cuts to this, and then it's never before that, and it's never after that again. And like I don't really understand the purpose of including that in the movie, but at the same time, it's like it's disturbing and it's very hard to watch. So like I think he accomplished his goal of that. Just me personally, I didn't really like just care for it being a part of the movie. So like I said, Three Kings is considered a black comedy, and I think there is a lot of dark humor in this movie, but I think it also has like it has a lot of heart to the movie also because like as much as I said that I didn't like the Nora Dunn Jamie Kennedy subplot, like watching it this time, despite the fact that it has nothing to do with like really what's going on or anything, like they have some really good scenes between the two of them. And like this was Jamie Kennedy just, right after Scream and Scream 2. So like I was high on him as an actor and like he was, one of the things that I really liked and cared about in the late 90s. And so like as dumb as his character is in this movie, like I kind of enjoy like, I mean, he legit plays a dumb redneck hillbilly. Like, yeah, it's really just a dumb character. but he does it well, and it's just not something personally that I liked seeing Jamie Kennedy do. So it is what it is. That's Three Kings. There's a lot going on with Three Kings. It's worth watching. It's like I said, it's a war movie. It's a black comedy. It's got some heart to it. It's got a lot of these are the characters that we think are bad guys, but as we get to know them better, we learn that they're not necessarily bad guys either. They're very much like our main characters. So yeah, it is what it is. I I recommend watching it if it sounds interesting to you. But I've got some other movies I'm about to talk about that I think are way better. The second film, also considered a black comedy. So sure, I consider it a black comedy, but this is what won Best Picture in 1999. This won the Oscar in March of 2000. It took home Best Picture and a couple other categories too. It won quite a few Oscars. I think Best Writing. I think Kevin Spacey won. I actually think this swept the top five categories if I remember right. Like it won quite a few awards in 1999. This is American Beauty. And like personally, I am in love with this movie. I think it is absolutely amazing. I loved it back in 1999. I was very happy when it won Best Picture. I've rewatched it actually a couple of times this year alone. Um, I might not love it as much as I did in 99, but I do really, really enjoy this movie. And I hate the fact that I have to address this because like I'm really disappointed with how many of my close friends, like my really close friends that I know don't like this movie. And like they're the people that have like what I consider the same dark sense of humor that I do. So the things that I find funny in this movie, apparently they don't. The things that I find like intellectually and emotionally stimulating about this movie, they don't. And like it's just really bizarre. I guess I don't know very many people that are just like about this movie because like I know a few people that really love this movie on the same level that I do. And then other people very close to me that I consider some of my closest friends tell me how much they hate, loathe, and despise this movie, and I just don't understand it. I maybe this subject matter isn't for everybody. Maybe people don't all look at art the same way that I look at it, but like I'm gonna address all the things that I really love about this movie. And I don't know, maybe it's the emotions of this film that some of my friends just don't like dealing with those emotions. I'm not like I, I can't understand it. Like there's the movie is about it's a character study of people who are all looking for love and acceptance, and they like and some of them look for it in the wrong ways. Like it's not about perfection. It's not it's about flawed people and flawed people making flawed decisions. And so like the first thing as I get into talking about American Beauty, the first thing that I need to address is unfortunately what's turned out to be. As I mentioned, there's a little bit of stuff going on with David O. Russell these days. There's a lot of stuff going on with Kevin Spacey. And 25 years ago, when I fell in love with this movie, I had no idea who or what the monster Kevin Spacey was going to be revealed to be. Much like Michael Jackson, much like Bill Cosby, now like Puff Daddy, like I have to find a way to separate the art from the artist. Like I recently just rewatched Seven not too long ago. I was flipping through the channels and Seven was on. It was like maybe like a third of the way into it. It was the dinner scene where Morgan Freeman comes over for dinner with Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow. And as soon as I saw Seven was on and that's where it was, I watched the entire rest of the movie because I think Seven is literally one of the best films ever made. But like it sucks because Kevin Spacey is absolutely amazing and phenomenal as John Doe in that movie. And when he shows up, it's just one of those moments like, oh, you were so amazing. Why did you turn out to be such a piece of shit? Like, so I'm going to be praising his character a lot as we talk about American Beauty, much like I do anytime I talk about Seven. And I need you to understand that I understand Kevin Spacey, the human, is a piece of shit, but his acting and some of the characters that he have done are just absolutely phenomenal. So let's move on from this. Let's move on to talk about how we're getting to a point where this is going to be a running topic for the next couple of months of movies that we watch. We have American Beauty, then we have Fight Club, and then we have Magnolia. And all three of these movies have a common theme to them. All three of these movies at the end of 1999 attempted to push its viewer to look for more meaning in their life. All three of these films focus on very mundane lives, very mundane characters, and the things that the main characters do in order to try to push through that and try to make more interesting lives for themselves, to make better lives for themselves, to escape the mundane and boring, repetition of life. So, like, first, the film to me, and this is why I can't understand why anybody would hate this. Like, this film is about loss. This film is about love. This film is about disconnection. This film is about trying to make a better life for yourself. This film is about realizing the things that are holding you back and trying to push through them to accept love, to find love. And it's all about looking below the surface. Like that's like the theme. That's the theme of all these movies that I just mentioned. And like um there's a I haven't studied this a lot, but there's a well-known theory. I don't know exactly what it's called. It's something like truth below American suburbia or something like that. Like it's got those similar kind of words in it. It's a concept that I think is explored through a film like The Stepford Wives, or I assume I haven't read about this recently, but I would assume the movie Don't Worry, Darling follows into this falls into this type of category also. Like just from what I've seen in the trailer of Don't Worry, Darling, which looks very much like The Stepford Wives, and knowing a little bit that I know about the movie, like I think that this truth below American suburbia concept, I mean, it's huge here in American Beauty. Like the concept that what we see and what is presented outwardly is not the truth. It's not reality. And like that is a huge part about what's going on in the film American Beauty. Like American Beauty, like the iconography of the rose, like on the poster and in my background, and like the scenes it's used in the movie, like the term American Beauty comes from the concept of a rose being something very beautiful, like symbolically, but then the rose below the surface has thorns that can hurt you very badly. So like it's the concept of beauty versus suffering and pain, and like looking below the surface of, even though something looks really beautiful, there's evil below the surface. And so like a few minutes ago, I mentioned that I've watched this movie a couple of times this year. I watch it randomly. I know I watched it, earlier this year, but back on September 15th ish, I was going to do a sole episode on just this movie. September 15th was the day American Beauty was released in New York and LA. And so, because I knew that this week's episode was going to be, jam packed with four movies, I said, maybe I'll just do a September 15th episode, and I'll separate it that way. I can talk about it more. I get more time for these other three movies. But then, as I was getting close to September 15th, and I watched the movie, and I was thinking about the movie, and I was like, you know what? I didn't watch this movie on September 15th. I watched it when it was released wide, which was on October 1st. So 2 weeks ago, I made the decision that as jam packed as this episode is today, I'm pushing everything onto the actual weekend where I first saw it. The weekend that American Beauty went like wide in America, I pushed it to this episode. So I watched it then, and then I went ahead and rewatched it again this week because it was 2 weeks ago. It was a little disturbing to watch. I thought about a lot of things that I hadn't thought about before. So having addressed that, I wanted to watch it again. So I've watched the movie at least three times this year, twice in the last 2 weeks. Um, so it's really fresh in my head, a lot of the stuff that I love about this movie. Let's talk about Kevin Spacey. Or you know what? I can fix this. Let's talk about Lester. Lester is Kevin Spacey's character in this movie. I will try to refer to him as Lester every time that I talk about this. So Lester is going through a midlife crisis, and Lester's life is just spinning wildly out of control around him, and he's trying to figure out a way. And like it's spinning out of control around him, but it's kind of self-induced spinning out of control because he finally hits a point in life where he is just so unhappy that he feels the need that he has to make some drastic life changes. Again, I said he's going through a midlife crisis. He essentially quits his job by blackmailing his boss. They're doing like explain to it like imagine office things. So they ask you, what are you worth here at the company? And Kevin Spacey decides that's his sign to just set all this in motion. So he essentially blackmails his boss. Don't know how realistically that would have played out, but for the speed of plot, like whatever. Um, to capture Lester at his job, there's a beautiful shot in this film. It's Lester at his office, and like Lester's looking at his computer monitor, and then when it shows the reverse shot of the computer monitor, we see Lester in the reflection, but all of the numbers and letters and dialogue and everything that's on the computer monitor are in vertical columns. So it makes it look essentially like prison bars. And we see, which I mean, I guess it's kind of fitting now knowing about Kevin Spacey, but I mean, I don't think that was the point back then. Anyway, the symbolism of this being Lester is trapped and feels imprisoned at his job. And like that is one of the most beautiful shots in cinema. Like it looks so well, it's really short, it's really quick. It just, it's Lester, reverse shot, shows him looking at the monitor, shows his reflection, shows the stuff up and down, literally symbolizing how he feels trapped and imprisoned at his job. And there's a lot of other like really beautiful shots in this movie, but this is the one that stuck out the most with me both times when I watched it recently. So like Lester, after he quits his job or takes his severance package or his blackmail money or however you want to look at it, he decides that because he has started having an infatuation with his daughter's best friend, that he's just going to start working out a lot. Apparently, Kevin Spacey did some physical transformation stuff, like just more like posturing stuff throughout the course of the movie as he like worked into this physique. Like I don't know if he wore a fat gut suit or whatever, but would do things to make it look like he had a gut. Um, so his daughter's best friend, who becomes the object of his affection, again, very creepy, very understandable, but I can't say that as a as a man in my midlife crisis now, like I can't say like I don't get creeped out. I do get creeped out of the concept of myself watching shows like Euphoria and like being like, oh man, these teenage girls are attractive. Like it sucks being at the same point in my life where I can relate to why Kevin Spacey's character did the stuff that he did. She is the daughter's best friend is played by Mina Suvari. So Mina Suvari in 1999 was in both American Pie and American Beauty. So that's really cool for her. His daughter is played by Thora Birch, that of Hocus Pocus and Now and Then. And like she is definitely like hitting an upward point in her career. Like I said, Hocus Pocus, and then Now and then this movie. I know she's done. In 2000, 2002, I think she did a couple of more big films that I'm drawing a blank on right now. But like, she is a character that starts off the movie not finding herself attractive at all, and is very troubled. And once she catches the gaze of the new boy next door, the way their relationship builds helps her gain confidence and change her outlook and perspective of herself. And so that's I mean I'll get into it here in a little bit, but that's one of the things that I enjoy about this movie is like teaching how her finding love like I'll just address it now. So Thora Birch's character starts this film off like heavy makeup, like almost gothy like makeup, like very, black stuff around her eyes, lots of makeup, hair done specific ways, and like mostly like pulled back and whatnot. But like basically like you get the vibe that due to the amount of makeup, like she is definitely hiding herself behind a fake persona. She is trying to project herself as something that she really isn't. Once she starts getting into this relationship with Wes Bentley, once he starts making her feel better about herself and feel more comfortable about herself, throughout the course of the film, you watch the makeup not necessarily like fall off of her face, but each scene gradually the makeup goes away. And by the end of the movie, I don't think she's wearing makeup at all. Like I think it's just plain her in her actual beauty that she is without having to hide behind the makeup. And so like as she begins to accept that somebody else can love her for who she is, the persona and fake about her starts to fall away and crumble away. And I think that's very enjoyable and interesting to watch as she goes through that transformation and she becomes a better version of herself because she realizes and accepts the fact that somebody can love me for who I am and not the fake person that I'm putting out there. Um, so I really really enjoy that, and then like that is juxtaposed in this film by the way Mina Suvari is, because at the beginning of the film she is very kind of like plain Jane-ish and whatnot. Like she wears a lot of like covering up clothing, like she wears a lot of long sleeve stuff. She wears like a puffy jacket at one point, like she is not very sexualized in the beginning of the movie, and then as she becomes Lester's object of affection throughout the course of the film, you watch her character. She seems like at the beginning arc of her character, we think that she's very plain Jane-ish, and we feel like she is very naive and teenage and just young and all that kind of stuff. But as her character develops and you start seeing that she's really not a good person. She's not a nice person. She treats her friend like shit. Like she is not an enjoyable character. And as that onion gets peeled back and we learn more and more about her character, she becomes a more sexualized character in normal life. Like obviously all of Lester's fantasies, she's extremely sexualized, but her character arc through the movie is her like essentially getting to that point as she realizes that she is Lester's object of affection. She starts dressing differently and starts attempting to seduce him in a Lolita type way, like leading up to what happens in the third act of the film and whatnot, where she essentially throws herself at him, and like all of this evil that she has been building up towards culminates in that scene where she essentially crosses the Lolita line and throws herself at an older man who is the father of one of her best friends. So like watching those two characters throughout the course of the film, one go from hiding herself and being fake to showing who she really is, to the other one that we think is who she really is at the beginning, learning what an evil person she is as she starts to I guess expose herself, but more become a different person. Like it's just those two girls and their trajectories in this film are really, really well done and enjoyable to watch. Lester's wife is played by Annette Bening, and it is an absolute amazing performance by her. Her attempt to achieve perfection. She's a real estate person, so there are scenes of her like cleaning houses to stage them, and like her obsessiveness with everything being perfect and being neat. Just again is the look closer, look below, look beneath the surface. Like she is faking these houses, like she is going in and cleaning them up to try to make them look better than they really are or were or whatever it is. Again, another allegory for just people trying to be fake, and she's trying to fake these houses into being attractive houses to potential buyers. She begins having an affair with Peter Gallagher, who at the end of this month we will be talking about Peter Gallagher, who is also in the film House on Haunted Hill in 1999. And then like there is a very funny yet also dramatic scene where their affair gets exposed in a classic scene of dramatic irony. We as the viewers know that Lester works at his fast food restaurant after he quit his job, and he literally goes into the interview and says he wants a job with the least amount of responsibility possible. So he gets one at a fast food place. His wife and her lover come through the drive-through, and like I said, it's funny for the audience knowing the setup. It's very dark when they actually get eye to eye and everything gets exposed. Like it's funny, but it's also super dramatic. So like I mean, again, hence why it's considered a dark comedy. There's also Chris Cooper in this film. He plays neighbor boy Wes Bentley's father. Dude, this is a tough character. Like hats off to Chris Cooper for agreeing to portray this character and then pulling it off as well as he does, because like this is an evil character, and a lot of his scenes are very, very hard to watch. The way he treats Wes Bentley, the homophobia that he represents through the course of this film, and like there is a lot of homophobia in this film. And let's address the fact that Alan Ball wrote it. He is a very out and publicly gay writer in Hollywood, so um, this wasn't like a gay bashing film. I feel like this was a film where he was trying to expose things like Chris Cooper's character in the world. Um, One of the most difficult parts, like Chris Cooper's not even in this scene, but like it's related to his character and it relates to the concept of look closer. Is the scene where Wes Bentley shows Thora Birch this Nazi plate that Chris Cooper's character is proud to own. Like it's on display as a plate, and what you would not see just looking at it is, oh, there's a plate on display. It's when you have to pick up the plate and flip it over and look closer, look behind it, and see that it's a Nazi plate. Like, again, something beautiful like a plate hides something evil, like being the fact that it's a Nazi plate. that whole look closer concept, the whole like don't judge a book by its cover, whether that's good or bad. Like it's the don't judge a book by its cover because like the book might be worse than you ever thought the book could be. Um, Basically, like look for like, and that's double also like look for beauty where there isn't beauty to be seen, but also be weary of things that look beautiful where there might be evil hiding behind it. And like red is a big color through this film, and it's the second film of 1999 that focuses on the color of red being an important color. The first one, obviously, being The Sixth Sense that everybody knows. But like, I go back, I digress to like all this stuff that I've just talked about. Like, it makes me so sad to know people that I love and respect their film choices, like hate this movie. Like I get it when people like in 1999 there was also the Blair Witch Project, and it makes me really sad when people don't like the Blair Witch Project for whatever reason, the shaky cam, the plot, the this or that, like because that movie was one of the most terrifying films that I've ever sat through. Um, this is just one of the best written films that I think like I understand it's tough and I understand that like it's not something that everybody can relate to, but I consider this like the evil version of Love Actually. Like it's literally just about a bunch of people who are looking for love and acceptance. And again, call it evil Love Actually because like a lot of people look in places that they shouldn't. Kevin Spacey should not be, idolizing a 16 or 17-year-old girl the way that he does. Like Annette Bening shouldn't be having an affair on her husband. Like there's a lot of difficult topics that are addressed in this movie, but I think it's all worth it. I think it's really well done. All of the acting is amazing. It's a very sensitive and difficult subject to talk about. But again, like I said, evil version of Love Actually. It's people making bad choices in the pursuit of love. Whereas like everybody in Love Actually is pretty much doing what they should do to try to find love. This one is, I consider, a little bit more realistic than that. Like these are people who want so desperately to be loved and want affection and want attention that they make really bad life choices. And that's one of the things that I really think is amazing about American Beauty. Whew. All right, I'm gonna take a drink real quick. That was an emotional roller coaster to go through. Let's end this movie talking about two really fun movies, okay? Two fun things that came out on October 1st, 1999. And next we will go with, let's just lighten it up. Let's do the sports movie of October 1st, 1999 is Mystery Alaska. Mystery Alaska, like so 1999 was really good for sports. In Varsity Blues, we got some football. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about For Love of the Game and got some baseball. Now we got a hockey movie. And like hockey movies are pretty rare, like in general. So, as somebody who played hockey growing up, I absolutely love movies that are about hockey. I don't know if there's a hockey movie I don't love. But I absolutely love Mystery Alaska, and there's a lot in this plot to talk about. And truth be told, there's a lot to address about how I looked at this movie differently in the last 25 years. We addressed it with For Love of the Game, where like I didn't have the nostalgia in my life 25 years ago, so I didn't connect to the movie the same way I connected to it now. Mystery Alaska is completely different. Mystery Alaska, I connected a lot to as a former hockey player when I saw the movie. But now as an adult, I connect with different characters in different ways. And so like I'm gonna address some of that stuff. First of all, when I played hockey, my hockey number was number nine. And what I'm about to say is I hope was on purpose because in this film, number nine is the character's name is Connor Banks. Connor Banks is number nine. I hope this was a callback to the Mighty Ducks, early 90s hockey movie where Adam Banks was number nine when he played for the Hawks. He became 99 when he got on the Mighty Ducks, but he was number nine when he played for the Hawks. So you got Banks number nine in two different hockey movies. I hope that was just a reference callback. I love the Mighty Ducks. I'm going to put Banks in as number nine in this movie. I hope. So, like, the only thing that I really connect with Connor Banks about being a number nine is he does have some anger issues in this movie. He takes a shot at Michael McKean. But yeah, so that's really like where my number nine connection in this movie stops. Like I actually connect with number 17 in this movie. Number 17 is played by, again, not played by, the character's name is Skank Martin. And Skank Martin is the womanizer in this movie. Obviously, at the age of 19, hooking up with chicks and being a womanizer was what Shane wanted to be at 19 years old. So Skank Martin, number 17, was who I connected with when this movie came out. And for a long time watching the movie, like nowadays I don't connect with him as much. Um, but yeah, so there. I mean, as far as the hockey team goes, probably I connect with him the most. Like he's still the one that I think is the coolest character on the team. But like now, as I'm older, I do connect quite a bit with number 10, Jeff Beebe, Russell Crowe's character in this movie, kind of the main character of the movie, the guy that has gotten so old that he has now been cut from the Saturday game so that he can make room for newer, younger, hotter talent to come in and play on Saturday. The plot of the movie involves a small town in Alaska called Mystery, hence the title Mystery Alaska, where they play hockey and they play hockey really well. And they play hockey on a pond. And every Saturday they have what's called the Saturday game. At the Saturday game, they throw a bunch of sticks on the ice. One of the kids comes in and divvies up the sticks. Whoever the kid puts on each team is who plays that week against each other. And they just have a hockey game for the whole town to come and watch. One guy who grew up in this town has moved on. He's tried to be better about himself. We're going to talk a lot about him in a minute. But he writes an article for Sports Illustrated about his hometown and about this hockey game. And it gets the NHL interested in saying, hey, like, let's do some PR stuff and let's have some hockey players go out there and play against these guys if you play them, they're so good. And so that's what happens. The New York Rangers come out to Mystery, Alaska, and they play hockey against each other in the third act of this movie. But like, so Jeff Beebe, Russell Crowe was the older character in this movie. As a young 19-year-old, didn't really relate to him very much. Now, not that I have a family anymore, but I definitely relate to him and the family man and that whole concept far more than I did, 25 years ago. So, like, Mystery Alaska is a sports movie, like in the same way that like Ted Lasso is a soccer movie, like TV show. Like hockey is involved in Mystery Alaska, but Mystery Alaska is really a movie about relationships. And like, if you look closer, yeah, you see what I just did there? Okay, it connects. Look closer. Look closer at what's going on in Mystery Alaska. Much like American Beauty, you got to go deeper than this just being a movie about sports. This is a movie about relationships. It's a movie about community. It's about a small, tight knit community. And much like the same unhappiness that is involved in a lot of the suburban American lives in American Beauty, there's a lot of relationship drama that goes on in this film. There's a lot of unhappy people making some bad choices, and having to deal with the fallout from that. So like Colm Meaney and Lolita Davidovich, they play a married couple, and their plot throughout this movie deals with having to address her infidelity. I mentioned the Skank Martin character earlier. He ends up sleeping with Lolita Davidovich. Colm Meaney finds his necklace in their bed. Um, that leads to that leads to a lot of tough conversations. And in no way am I justifying her having an affair. But there is a very intense scene between the two of them. Because Colm Meaney does not handle this very well. He handles it probably how I would handle it, and he gets very upset and very angry, and kind of goes off to be by himself for a while. They have a very tense scene and a very open and frank discussion about their relationship. It's tough. It's tough watching it. I can't imagine being a part of a conversation like that, but you feel the relief when the conversation is over. So like it again, it's about relationships, it's about people making bad decisions, but then like they work their way through it. And I think that's really healthy and really good as far as the plot of this movie goes. I feel like it's not something that really gets done in a lot of films. People have affairs, people break up, people move on. Like they don't nobody ever actually like has that conversation of how are we gonna fix this type thing. And it's like I said, it's tough. It's really emotional. It's really well done. Um Russell Crowe, I've talked about him being one of the main characters. He is married to Mary McCormick. Mary McCormick's ex-boyfriend is Hank Azaria, and Hank Azaria is the one who grew up in town, went off and wrote for Sports Illustrated. He's the one that's, essentially bringing the New York Rangers to town. He's the one that comes with all the money to build the rink. They take their pond and turn it into a rink. He brings them a bunch of stuff as part of this, like selling them on the New York Rangers coming to play them. Because in the town hall scene, like it's very much like Hoosiers, like should we do this or not? Like the firing of Norman Dale scene in Hoosiers, they have a town hall meeting where they decide should we actually play against the Rangers, or are they going to annihilate us and make us look stupid? And like, is that worth it? Like, is all this money and all this exposure, is it worth bringing them into town if they're going to just ruin us as a community? Um, so Hank Azaria comes back. They have their whole scene. They do decide to do it. Um, Hank Azaria, as I said, is Mary McCormick's ex-boyfriend. They mentioned multiple times throughout the course of the film that they dated in high school. After they got done dating, she left him for Jeff Beebe's character. They have now gone on to have a family with 3 kids together. Hank Azaria never has really gotten over her. And most of you that know me know, that's kind of how my life goes. That's kind of how I am with certain relationships in my life. So Hank Azaria kind of just has that. I'm going to go off and prove myself. I'm going to go off and make a better version of myself. I'm going to make the version that you would have been attracted to. And not that he ever like you never get the vibe from him in this movie that he is trying to win her back, but you also like they have very blunt conversations about what didn't work between them and how much he regrets that. And I have definitely had conversations with some of my exes that are very similar to that. I am definitely still friends with a lot of my exes, and I get to spend my life watching them be happy with other people. And so at this point in my life, 25 years later, I definitely relate to this Hank Azaria character far more than I ever thought I would when I was 19 years old and wanting to be Skank Martin. So it's just stuff that I didn't pick up on when I was younger. I hadn't been through life the way that I have been now, so I didn't have the same emotions that I have watching these films as an adult. So there's a huge dynamic between the three of them. Like Hank Azaria's character, like giving the vibe that he is coming back in town to try to prove to her that she made the wrong choice by leaving him, even though he never at any point in the film says you should be with me, you should leave him. It's just the way he presents himself is very much like this is what you gave up on. Jeff Beebe, Russell Crowe, definitely sees that there is chemistry between them. In almost any old relationship where they still are friends, there is chemistry. There is still something that happened that made them bond in a way that can never be changed, despite any fights or arguments or breakups or anything like that. These two characters have a very good chemistry with each other. And unfortunately, Russell Crowe's character has to sit there and watch that as they talk. And while they have flirtatious conversations and things like that, and the jealousy that builds over the course of like the end of Act One going into Act Two, and it kind of festers a lot during Act Two before it boils over, like watching his jealousy build and the way it tests their marriage is again very difficult to like. I told you, like, this movie is about relationships and it deals with some pretty serious and heavy relationship content, and his jealousy towards watching them and the boiling over, like they then Russell Crowe and Mary McCormick's characters have also a very blunt conversation about their relationship and the family that they've built. And like Russell Crowe, like literally is like, if you want to be with him, just go be with him. Like his jealousy gets to that point, and she has to explain to him that there is nothing there on her end, that it is just a friendship. And what she has to do to convince Russell Crowe of, not what she has to do, but the way she presents herself and presents her feelings towards Russell Crowe, like, is an amazing sequence. And then for Russell Crowe to realize all of my jealousy was misplaced. Like it shouldn't have been there. I should have trusted her. Like again, this movie is about relationships. Like it's it's great. It's really awesome. Like I said, like 25 years later, the characters that I connect to more are obviously now the adult characters in this and not necessarily the younger, hockey players. So I don't know, man. Like this movie hits. It still does. It still hits a lot. This movie was directed by Jay Roach, who's normally known for comedies, and there's a lot of funny stuff in this movie. Like it is a comedy, it's a sports comedy, but I've told you a lot of deep emotional stuff that gets addressed in this movie. So like it definitely hits both. It hits drama, it hits comedy. Jay Roach is mostly known for like the Austin Powers films where he got his big name, and that explains why Michael Myers has a small little cameo in this movie in the third act. Um, Pretty amazing cast. Burt Reynolds is also in this movie. Maury Chaykin is in this movie. Michael McKean's in this movie. Kevin Durand is in this movie. Durand, not with a T. Durand, not the basketball player. The actor Kevin Durand is in this movie. Beth Littleford is in this movie. Really good cast. Lots of sexual humor in this. That's probably why I really like it still. That's probably why I liked it then. That's probably why I like it now. Lots of relationship, emotional, sexual content, jokes, a lot of layers to this amazing film. Like a lot of really cool stuff that goes on. And like it's the story of an underdog hockey team that goes up against the New York Rangers. And while the film's about hockey, this is a film about relationships. And it's yeah, I can't recommend it enough. It's amazing. So let's end this episode with the fourth film that came out this week. Absolutely top notch. I have talked multiple times about how great 1999 was for teenage rom-coms. We've had stuff like 10 Things I Hate About You and American Pie. Like, this is Drive Me Crazy, and it is right up there with all of those other amazing 1999 teen rom-coms that we've got. It's so great. The nostalgia from this movie is awesome. The youthful times, the young love, the young lust, the young relationships. It's all perfect. I love the memories that this movie brings back to me. I love all the emotions that Drive Me Crazy brings to me. Like Drive Me Crazy was the first time I ever remember seeing Adrian Grenier in a film. Like this was a couple years before Entourage became a thing, and like he stars opposite Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Melissa Joan Hart. Great casting, great chemistry these two have with each other. And this is a typical, prototypical, paint by numbers, standard 90s teen rom com that you know exactly what's going to happen. You know where it's going from the first minute. You aren't shocked or surprised by anything that happens in this movie, but it's everything that you want from this movie. Melissa Joan Hart is one of the most popular girls in school, and she has her eyes on the star basketball player, and then all of a sudden he develops a crush on a girl from another school and starts dating her, and so Melissa Joan Hart is heartbroken. Hart is heartbroken. That was interesting to say. Meanwhile, we got Adrian Grenier, and his girlfriend is played by the absolutely beautiful Ali Larter, in a super emo phase, and she has purple hair in this movie. I 100% put this role by Ali Larter on the map for why I became obsessed with girls with purple hair. Like, it's just a thing. It's just, this movie is what caused all of that. So, Ali Larter, gorgeous. Ali Larter, purple hair, even more gorgeous. Ali Larter dumps Adrian Grenier, who are two leads who are actually neighbors in the movie. Both get dumped. They were friends before high school. They had a falling out in middle school, so they don't really talk the same way that they did. But they hatch a plan. If we date each other, if we make everybody in school think that we're dating, then that's going to make our exes, well, ex and object of my affection, notice us and want to be with us. And this is not a new plot. I am pretty sure there was a bunch of 80s movies that were teenage rom-coms that did this. I don't know them as well as I know Drive Me Crazy, but this plot always works, right? It always works exactly how we have planned. I'm going to make my girlfriend jealous. You're going to make your boyfriend jealous. Let's get together. Let's do this. No, no, you know exactly where it's going. You know exactly what it's going to do. You, the audience, you're not shocked or surprised with the outcome, but it is a super fun journey to go on with these characters. There's sidekicks, there's side plots, there's things that test friendships. All of this is set to some great 90s music. Like, and yes, Britney Spears' Drive Me Crazy does eventually get played during the credits of this movie, but before the credits, we've got stuff from the Bare Naked Ladies, the Donnas, Less Than Jake, Backstreet Boys, Jars of Clay, and even Matthew Sweet makes an appearance on this album, like in the movie. Like it's such it's such a great film. It's so much fun, and like you don't need to be shocked or surprised. It's just a great and like at this point, it's a great nostalgic journey to go around. Like you don't have a bunch of teenagers all on their phones all the time. Like you actually have people talking to each other and spending time together and hanging out with each other and calling each other up on the regular landline to go get together and go drive around in the mall parking lot. Like let's all get together and go out to like the watering hole. Like it's just You know, I'm just so nostalgic for life back when it was simple. And like Troy and I recently on Troy Talks talked about how like in the 90s FOMO wasn't the same way that FOMO was now. Like FOMO was like, oh, me and a bunch of guys went to the mall last night, and it's like, oh damn, bro, like I wish I would have gone with you guys. That would have been fun. But now let's do something else fun together. Like it's not like nowadays where everybody's posting stuff all over social media and you get that instant FOMO of like, oh, I should be there with them right now, but I'm not, but I also don't want to leave my house because I'm agoraphobic now, like most of the world is. Like it's just one of those things that like I have the nostalgia for like exactly what these characters do. They on a Friday night after a football game, they go out and hang out and talk to each other face to face. They get food together. They cruise, in convertible cars down the road, jamming out to music together. Like, um, it's there's so much nostalgia that I long for in life that's in this movie. Um, let's talk about the supporting cast. And this is going to get a little deep for a minute. It's kind of some disappointing stuff to talk about. Um, in this movie, in 1999, there's an actress named Susan May Pratt. She is I don't want to belittle her by saying a little known, but she is a side character. She's the best friend character in two different movies. She was Julia Stiles' best friend in the film 10 Things I Hate About You, which was a much sweeter role. She was a very sweet character in that movie. Drive Me Crazy, she plays Melissa Joan Hart's best friend, and she is pretty much a super bitch. So, like, I always enjoyed in all of these years, the last 25 years, the fact that in 1999 she, played both ends of the best friend spectrum. She played the really cute, friendly, sweet girl, and she played the raging bitch character. So, like, I wanted to look her up. I was like, oh, like I should like find out more about her to talk about on this episode because, like I said, she did two movies from 1999. Why not talk about it? Found out that she did some acting, not a whole lot of stuff, but she did eventually marry an actor named Kenneth Mitchell. And the name didn't really sound that familiar to me, but when I clicked on him to look him up, I learned that another hockey movie, we just talked about Mystery Alaska, in 2004, there was a hockey movie called Miracle that came out. It was about the 1980 hockey team that beat the Russians and then went on to win the gold in the Olympics. In Miracle, one of the hockey players was a guy named Ralph Cox, and Kenneth Mitchell played Ralph Cox in that movie. So like super cool. Like as soon as I saw his face, I'm like, oh, I recognize this guy. I recognize him from Miracle. He's done a bunch of other stuff also. He was one of Peter Weller's kids on the TV show Odyssey 5. Odyssey 5, probably nobody's heard of it. Odyssey 5 is a Canadian show about time travel. Well, it's about like astronauts that go out into space and then they get sent back in time 5 years to try to help society not screw up the same way that it did. I don't know. Like it, really good show. Anyway, he was one of Peter Weller's kids on Odyssey 5. He was in episodes of The Unit and Castle and Star Trek Discovery. He was even in the Captain Marvel film. So like I didn't realize this guy had such a great like resume of stuff. Kenneth Mitchell, him and Susan ended up having a couple of kids together. And then like um unfortunately earlier this year in 2024, Mr. Mitchell ended up passing away. He had ALS, I want to say it was. Yeah, so like really, really just like it sucks. It sucks knowing that two actors that I enjoyed them in roles found each other, got together, got married, had kids, had a family, and then at 49 years old, he gets diagnosed with ALS and passes away. And like it's just thought like life sucks sometimes. So anyway, like I didn't want to end this episode on like a super down note, but I just wanted to address this because for 25 years of my life, like I've mentally addressed her as these two characters, and then to find out like what really was going on in her life for the last 25 years was a lot of good, and then unfortunately this year ended up with some really shitty stuff going on for her. So anyway, like I said, did not want to end the episode on a down note, but I did want to address her because for 25 years, it's been somebody that I've enjoyed her body of work in 1999. That was a lot that we talked about. I don't even know how long this episode was. I don't think I hit an hour. I might have hit an hour. I didn't really pay attention to when I started. But that was four movies that I loved that I really wanted to talk about. So I appreciate you going on that journey with me, talking about all these movies, talking about the good, talking about the weird, talking about the awkward, talking about the difficult stuff in film that gets talked about in this week in 1999. So October 1st, 1999, one of the best years all around. Four great things you could have gone and watched. Really appreciate you going on this journey with me. Next week, a little shorter, a little simpler. It'll probably be a much shorter episode. It's two movies that Random Hearts. I need to rewatch. I know it's Harrison Ford and Kristen Scott Thomas. I think it has to do with their significant others dying somehow and then finding out that they were having an affair. So I don't really remember a lot from the movie, so I'm gonna have to rewatch that. And then the other one next week is Superstar, an SNL film starring the absolutely gorgeous Molly Shannon. Will Ferrell is also in it. So that'll be fun to rewatch. I tend to enjoy SNL stuff. But yeah, so two movies to talk about next week. It should be a much shorter episode. I appreciate your time on this journey with me this week. October 1st, 1999.